The episode opens with Vatic smoking on the bridge as Geordi removes Lore from the ship so he is more or less able to control him for the time being, considering the unstable nature of Data/Lore. As Geordi does this, Vatic takes away the lighting of the ship, then disables their comms, as she sends her henchmen to take out each crewman and hunt down Jack. As she smokes on her cigarette, you can hear the voices of crewmen dying, and all sympathy I did have for her from the last episode is moot. Look, you can debate whether or not the torture of her was worth it or not, considering how she was an enemy POW, but you know what the Federation was? Facing extinction. Billions were lost during the Dominion War. This would have been avoided had her people not held such a grudge against Solids and just wanted to take over and just erase normal fleshy people. They would do anything for the greater good.
Shut it!
And if you hate me because of my reasoning or leave angry comments about how I am immoral, well, war is immoral, but sometimes there are people that have to get down in the mud to protect the free world. They are sworn to protect. Yes, what was done to her was terrible, but she is a terrible person, and regardless on if she was captured or not, she would have still fought Starfleet and killed people, not just Starfleet, but other alien creatures. So I think Starfleet had grounds to do it. It was wrong, but I see why they would do something like that. And for those of you complaining about my stance and commenting below why I'm wrong and I'm not a real fan, well,
I lied. I cheated. I bribed men to cover the crimes of other men. I am an accessory to murder. But the most damning thing of all, I think I can live with it. And if I had to do it all over again, I would. Garrick was right about one thing. A guilty conscience is a small price to pay for the safety of the Alpha Quadrant. So I will learn to live with it.
Well said, Cisco. As Picard and Beverly try to access anything, it's revealed that Vatic has shut down the ship from the bridge. As Picard and Beverly continue to break through, Jack has another weird mind thing as he goes into this weird POV shot, very similar to Star Trek First Contact. He takes control of a crewman as he makes his way through the ship. We see a couple of dead crewmates, one cowering as he is shot, and Jack returns to his body. As Jack tells Picard and Beverly that Vatic has the ship, she addresses the crew and tells the crew that she can kill them all in many different ways, but she wants Jack to come to the bridge specifically. We cut to the Shrike, where we catch up with Will and Troy. Now, from what has been said, the reason the La Sirena was not in the last episode or this episode was because of budgetary reasons. They had to use what was left of the previous set to create the rest of the Shrike.
Shame.
We get this wonderful scene in the holding cell, and it just shows that both actors have still got it. All of the legacy characters have acted their parts so well.
All I wanted was to see your face. I missed loving you, Imzadi.
Oh, you are clearly concussed.
Oh, definitely. I want to give you one final dose of the old Riker charm.
Will, you're already charming enough to take over this whole season. If you become even more charming, we might be in based Riker overload. Troy said a changeling came to their home impersonating Riker.
Good in bed, bad at pizza.
So just like me.
What? Troy then follows up that she knew they were already imposters. So, Does that mean she willingly slept with a changeling? Does that count as cheating if she had sex with a changeling, Riker? Since she knew it was different, why would she do that? Was she just that sexually frustrated she jumped the changeling's bones? Or rather, its goop? Does that mean Riker got cucked by himself? How does Troy even look at Riker in the face after that?
It just raises too...
Sorry, wrong clip.
What the fuck is this?
As we cut back to the Titan, Shaw tells Seven that she should have blown the turbo lift, which he actually did say just after he got in it. Shaw tells Seven that actions have consequences, even if Seven thinks she will not trade lives. Vadic sends another team to suss Jack out as Vadic tries to draw him in by announcing to the crew that she will kill one of the bridge crew every 10 minutes he doesn't go to her. As Jack tries to go, Beverly and Picard stop him from going, saying that even if he did give himself over to Vadic, she would blow up the ship. Jack tells Picard and Beverly that he is able to connect with people. As Beverly scans him and says he's fine, maybe they are illusions. Sydney steps up and says that he's done it to her. Jack then takes control of Tactical Officer Lieutenant Matthew Arliss Mura, the Bajoran officer, as Jack uses him to input Picard's codex to override the ship. However, Vadic finds out and is able to deduce that Jack had taken over his body and says that he's been living up to his potential. Vadic then announces to inform Jack that, well, someone's gonna die. And this lineup is giving me huge Walking Dead vibes. She puts down Ensign Esmar as Seven volunteers herself, but Shaw says there is nothing they can do. First off, I get why he says it, but at the same time, that's just not the Shaw we have been given for the last 7 episodes. I understand that he has accepted that nothing he says or do will change the fact that one of them are going to die. But at the same time, this is Liam Shaw, one of the best characters of the show. He called out Picard and Riker's bullshit. He helped spare Jack's life when being confronted with Vadic. He thought how the strike was tracking them. He helped save the Titan from certain doom. He finally realizes that Starfleet had been compromised and made a difference. He bravely tried to stop the changelings and Vadic from getting to the bridge by continuing walking down and shooting and telling Seven to blow up the turbo lift, willingly showing he would sacrifice himself to protect the crew. But in this moment, it's almost like he had been defeated. Maybe he got a couple more hits to the head in the turbo lift than we were led to believe. And it gives him this defeatist attitude. To be fair, Vadic does say that he's right. So if she were to make her way down the crew, I bet Seven and Shaw would be last on the list. Vadic also puts down the same lieutenant which Jack controlled, and he also states that he has a child. When Vadic asks why he won't tell Jack to go up to the bridge, he says that he's Starfleet. Fuck yeah. That is Starfleet right there, facing certain doom, possibly his impending death, and he says he can't because he's Starfleet. This dude is awesome. She puts a phaser to Esmar's head as she cries and breathes heavily. Man, I feel for her. This scene, for all intents and purposes, is a nail-biting, intense, suspenseful scene. It's just so gripping and engaging. All you need is Negan coming out with a bat and pointing it at all of the crew. However, instead of killing the Lieutenant Matthew or Ensign Esmar, Vadic kills the Vulcan science officer, Lieutenant Tavine. She doesn't even get a second to respond. You know what? That really sucks. I have really learnt to like the bridge crew. They are quite a great cast, and it sucks that one of the main ones, had to go. But for the Vulcan to go, I'm sure she would understand. Need I remind you?
The needs of the many outweigh
The needs of the few.
or the one.
Back on the Shrike, Riker appears to have given up, according to Troy, but Riker explains that he was numb because Troy went into his head to ease the pain of the grief of losing his son. And this is why Riker has been, well, a bit distant from Troy. It's because she, in Riker's eyes, tried to take away his last connection to his son. Now, while I understand Troy's choice in doing so, considering she is a Betazoid, and they can feel every emotion imaginable, it is understandable why she did it. Not just to ease Riker's pain, but to unburden herself of feeling his pain as well as hers. However, that is a massive invasion of privacy, and that is hugely unethical. She essentially took away his grief over losing his son. That is inhumane. And I know, she is an alien, but that is a bit messed up. However, she realizes she forgot one of the most important lessons of being a counselor.
But I forgot the one thing that all counselors should remember. You can't skip to the end of healing.
Yeah, because grief is needed to move forward. Without being able to feel the pain of loss, we would lack the ability to feel in and of itself. And without that, we wouldn't be who we are as humans and as the people we are.
Happy birthday, my son. If only I could have helped you.
Loss shapes us, it molds us and creates our individuality. Without experiencing the loss of a loved one and being unable to grieve would be an even worse pain than the actual stages of grieving. It would just not make us human.
It means that you have achieved in disgrace what I have always aspired to be.
Oh, I do not feel envy.
Well, that's good.
I feel nothing at all. That is part of my dilemma. I have the curiosity of humans, but there are questions that I will never have the answers to. What it is like to laugh or cry, or to experience any human emotions.
Now back to your regularly scheduled Pew Pew science fiction show. Troy and Riker hug and talk about leaving the planet they live on. It's rather light-hearted scene following the exchange that just happened earlier. It's nice to see them bounce back. It's a great scene between the two and it's wonderfully well acted. Again, I've said it before and I've said it again, Jonathan Frakes in this season is fantastic. The actor is great, he is so great in this season. It makes me wonder why he never acted much. He mainly shifted to directing, and while I like his efforts there, I just think his Riker is fantastic. Riker pushed back against the changeling.
Don't touch her!
I mean, doesn't need to be said. When Worf saves the two from, I presume, execution, Troy and Riker hug Worf.
One's personal space is a right.
God, Michael Dorn is great here too. Worf then essentially kinda woos Troy as Riker, who ain't no cuck, calls him out.
I have thought of your empathic gifts often during my self-evaluation.
Well, that's wonderful.
Inappropriate.
The level of sensitivity that I have achieved has been in more ways than one.
Is this a rescue mission or a continuation of the torture?
If you thought this one was based, you're right.
It's revealed that Worf and Raffi have a cloaked shuttle. How? Like, is that standard issue? I don't think so. Did Worf steal a Klingon cloaking device and put it in there? If so, where did he get it from? How?
It just raises too many questions.
No shit! Jack tries to tell Beverly that he wants to try and save the bridge crew, but Sydney says that she has been unable to take any part of the ship and that it would take a year for her and a month for her father. So someone who is incredibly smart needs to do it himself. Luckily, they have a guy just waiting to be reactivated. Picard, Beverly, Jack, and Sydney go to Geordi, Alondra, Data/Lore. Geordi gives Picard a test.
6 years ago, you brought a gift to my anniversary dinner on Rigel.
A Chateau Picard Bordeaux, which you said was too dry because your taste in wine is pedestrian at best.
Definitely Picard.
I don't know, Picard. If Shaw shits on your wine, Worf shits on it, Riker knows Worf would refer to the wine, and now Geordi says he hates it, maybe you just shit at making your family wine. Perhaps consider a new career path, like captaining a starship. Geordi says to Picard that there's something blocking Lore from taking over Data. However, Picard suggests that removing the barrier is the only option and their only chance is for Data to take over Lore. We then cut to inside Data/Lore's brain, as Lore explains to Data what Geordi is trying to do. Data goes through stuff that is significant to him, which is the first Sherlock Holmes hat and Sherlock's pipe, as Lore explains that he's slowly taking over Data. Back on the Shrike, Raffi explains to Worf, Riker, and Troy that the changelings removed parts of Picard's brain that contain the aromatic syndrome. Raffi downloads the information to understand what they want with parts of Picard's brain. Vadic is alerted of Riker and Troy's escape, as she is about to kill another one of the Titan's crew. However, Jack then comes to the bridge.
I was sure you'd decline my invitation.
No, my mother taught me better manners than that.
He seems a bit too calm. I wonder why.
I even bought you a gift.
Because he's holding a thermal detonator!
Geordi says that Lore is taking over Data. Data says to Lore that all his trinkets are a part of his memories. We even get a little cameo, cameo in the very slightest sense, with Tasha Yar, who was the first person Data was sexually entangled with and left an impact on him. The second being the Boar Queen, which was a bit ewy. Back on the bridge, Jack arms the device and tells Vadic to let the crew go.
There's really no point resisting.
Just like his old man.
Resistance is futile.
The crew are then taken to the conference room as Seven stays with Jack.
How fitting it is for you to stay and witness this.
What does she mean by this? I'll tell you a little later, but I think I have an idea of where this is going. Jack asks Vadic what does she want with him and why. She mentions that for the longest time he must have felt isolated and loneliness. Again, I'll get back to you on that. Jack wants Vadic to get down to the point, but again she points out how he's been hearing voices and that he's had years of solitude and now he hears voices. She even asks him if he's curious to look past the red door. The one that has been a forefront of the entire mystery, Jack's mysterious red door and his tentacle buddies. Lore continues to delete Data as Data gives trinkets of his past to Lore, since he no longer will need them and that he is dying. Finally, Data gives Spot, his cat, to Lore because this is the thing that had taught him to love. As Lore accepts it, he deletes Data from the body. However, Data pulled a reverse Uno card. Because Lore accepted Data's memories as trophies, he essentially becomes Data as a result.
Goodbye, brother.
What a wonderful way to conclude Data's transformation into essentially becoming human. Data then takes over the ship and Raffi kills some fools.
Jack Crusher. You are up.
He activates the device, but it turns out that it is a portable force field, as Picard opens the evacuation hatch to the bridge.
Get off my bridge.
I don't know, love. I think Harrison Ford did it better.
Get off my plane.
I think they've forgotten where they're standing. I think they've forgotten the gravity of the situation. Night.
Fucking solid.
That was kind of funny. Again, I feel swearing is a no-no, but that was admittedly kind of funny. They both get flung out as Vadic gets frozen due to, well, space, and then gets smashed by her ship. Ah, the irony of it. So since Vadic is a changeling, it was established in Deep Space Nine that those changelings were able to survive space. So maybe she might reform and survive. Maybe she'll live to fight another day.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
Worf then tells Raffi that she is still making some mistakes. Worf, never change. Deanna tells them that there is some sort of darkness on this ship. I wonder what that could be. Picard welcomes Data back, and he is happy that he can now experience old age, since he has experienced death before. We then get this amazing pan-by shot of the Titan with the Shrike blowing up in the background, with the motion pictures theme, Jerry Goldsmith's theme playing, and it's so good. It is shit porn this season, and I'm loving every minute of it. Data and Geordi discuss how new this new Data is. When Geordi asks how he feels, he responds with,
I feel
It's a fantastic way of showing the growth of Data. Yes, he had his emotion chip, but Data wasn't able to unlock his potential. He was still confined to his android body. But now, with his new body and combining all of the different personalities into one body, he has become whole. We then finally get all of the crew together in the conference room. It's so great seeing them all interact. Just a wonderful fan moment with all of them together. And unlike some franchises that don't bring legacy characters together or bring them back without earning it, this season earns the right to have them all together, and it's wonderful to see.
I have slaughtered countless enemies over the years and considered sending their heads to all of you. But I was advised that that was passive-aggressive.
Anyway, they say they're going to examine the data from the Shrike. However, Data brings up the elephant in the room, Jack. Deanna backs us up that the darkness is tied directly to him. So Deanna meets with Jack, and she uses her empathic abilities to see inside him and to go with him past the red door. And the episode ends with the voices calling out to him. Okay, so this episode is a lot. I think this episode is better than last week's episode, and I'd say better than perhaps episode 1 and 2. It has great acting, it is satisfying, and we get the whole crew back together. Okay, now we move on to the negatives. Let's get it out of the way, the F-bomb. I still don't like that there's an F-bomb in it. It is funny, but if they had removed it, it wouldn't have done much. A couple of odd lines here and there, and a questionable action with Deanna of Troy, like what she did to Riker. That was a bit messed up, I'm not gonna lie. But I still quite enjoyed this episode. We even get the resurrection of Data, and that has been, well, That was brought up in season 1, but people didn't like that, and then he died again, and then they just brought him back, and honestly, I'm glad that he's back. So, back to earlier when I said I would come back to it, my theory is I think Jack maybe is in some way connected to the Borg. I mean, some of the dialogue really hints at it. I mean, we get the first-person view, like in First Contact, where Picard had been assimilated. Vadic says it's fitting for Seven to witness this. Like, what? Jack essentially says resistance is futile. Vadic even says that Jack had been isolated and felt loneliness. However, now he hears voices. The Borg would communicate with each other, millions upon millions of voices communicating as one. I also think back to Shaw's rant back in episode 4.
The real Borg are still out there.
So I think in some way the Borg are involved and they want Jack for something. Anyway, that's just my theory. In terms of this episode, it is a step up from last week's. I think it has a solid end for Vadic. And it seems as though that the show is closing in on its endgame. It seems as though next week we finally unveil what Jack is. Other than that, I look forward to the climax of this season and the end of the show. It's been a really fun ride, and I hope we get Star Trek Legacy with Terry Matalas, because that guy really deserves a chance at running the whole franchise. I mean, I've been loving #TerryTrek, and I think in his hands, Star Trek can be great once again. As long as Alex Kurtzman keeps his hands off Star Trek, because right now it's looking pretty bleak. But that's just my thoughts. Thank you all for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want, share the video. Thank you, everyone, for supporting this series. Like, it means so much to me. And hey, if you have a different opinion, please dislike. Comment below. Tell me where we disagree. And I'd love to have a conversation with you, because I would love to discuss the ethics of what Starfleet did. But I have a certain view, and, you know, it's okay if you have a certain view. And if you have a certain view on this series, and that's different to mine, I'd love to talk to you and just communicate as to why you don't like it or why you have mixed feelings on it. It's a great conversation, because this is good Trek. And if you don't like it, I want to hear what you would like to change in the future to get better Trek. So, thank you all, and have a good one.